Watching Arsenal is watching Netflix, you know. You always wait for the next season.
Look at this contrast.
No, I love seeing that. I think that adds to it, adds to the game.
We want that fight. We want that spirit between the teams. We want the battle on the benches at the end. I want to mention Gabriel and what he did to Haaland. I actually don't like it. I think it's a bit disrespectful.
Arsenal are a story on their own. One of the biggest teams in England, yet also one of the most divisive.
This kid looks an absolute superstar, and he's got that presence and personality on a football pitch at 18 that you very rarely see.
I didn't like the Lewis Skelly thing. I don't care that Haaland said to him in the first game, "Who the f*** are you?" I don't think Lewis Skelly is in a position to be taking the piss out of Erling Haaland, who was a guy who scored 250 goals and won every trophy under the sun.
No matter where you look, there is always a debate surrounding them.
Yeah, you need that little bit of rivalry, that little bit of, stick up the backside and say, right, you're having it today.
The Lewis Skelly stuff. Wind your neck in.
Are the Gunners unfairly targeted, or do they bring this upon themselves? It's not like Arsenal has only recently been getting hate. It's something that the club has dealt with for years. They have always been at the center of controversy, even from Arsene Wenger's early days. When Wenger arrived in 1996, he was an unknown figure to most English football fans. The media and many within the footballing establishments questioned whether he was the right man for the job.
I came here and it was new to have a foreign manager, so I could understand the skepticism of the people.
At the time, English football was still largely resistant to foreign managers, and Wenger's arrival was met with condensation.
I proposed Arsene, and actually the board were very conservative and didn't really think that a manager from overseas would be right.
The infamous headline from the Evening Standard, Arsene Who, captured the doubt and disbelief surrounding his appointment.
And just finally, how much are the players looking forward to Arsene Wenger arriving now that you've officially been told it's going to be the end of this month?
Who? Wenger's football philosophy, emphasizing nutrition, sports science, and technical quality, directly clashed with the traditional English footballing culture, which prioritized physicality, toughness, and experience.
The Arsenal players are getting used to their new manager and his new methods.
His methods were even mocked by other managers who felt his ideas were too soft for the English game.
Really articulate, wonderful man. He's got visions of the future. He's going to change the game in England. And I'm sitting there going, yeah, okay, David, of course he is.
Additionally, Wenger's insistence on strict diet plans, removing alcohol and fried food from players' meals, was laughed at in an era where many footballers still enjoyed pub culture.
In fact, in a way, he revolutionised not just Arsenal, he revolutionised English football because he changed the dietary habits, he changed tactics, he changed the way they train, and he was a breath of fresh air.
Players were skeptical to Wenger's ideas at first.
It was really a shock, and you only buy into it when you realise it's going to be a success.
Especially when Tony Adams found out that Wenger had suggested some changes to Pat Rice for the UEFA Cup match against Borussia Mönchengladbach.
Wenger will travel to Germany this week with Arsenal to observe his new team, leaving Rice with the job of inspiring a UEFA Cup comeback against Borussia Mönchengladbach.
The match had occurred 9 days before the Frenchman was supposed to take charge of the club. Arsenal ended up losing, which angered Adams, who expressed his disappointment in his first meeting with Wenger. Shortly after Wenger had joined Arsenal, rumors began circulating around his private life. Gossip started about him that were malicious and untrue. The articles were taken down quickly, but they made enough noise at the time that the City of London reported Wenger's exit from Arsenal was imminent.
How long I would last was one of the biggest bets in the country.
According to some sources, the rumor had to do with a secret reason that was created for why Wenger had left Japan. It had nothing to do with football, but with Wenger's personal relationship with his girlfriend. This, well, it was only the beginning. As Wenger's teams became known for their technical brilliance and attacking flair, rivals began to label them as soft, or unable to handle the rough and tumble nature of English football.
This was a new system for us where we were playing out from the back, no more long balls, which I used to hit every time.
This criticism began to get worse as teams like Manchester United and Bolton would often physically target Arsenal, and the media framed Arsenal as a side that could play beautiful football, but struggled with resilience.
Arsene Wenger's been in Japan for a year. He doesn't know anything about English football. He's unaware of the demands of our game.
Another major criticism Arsenal faced was their lack of English players during Wenger's era, which led to criticism that they weren't respecting the roots of English football.
We have improved our quality on the English side.
The argument gained a lot of traction because other big clubs like Manchester United and Liverpool still relied heavily on homegrown talent. The media frequently pointed this out. Adding to the animosity towards Wenger's Arsenal. The Frenchman's rivalry with Sir Alex Ferguson also played a huge role in the hate that Arsenal received.
This Arsene Wenger's had a swipe at Manchester United again today. He's got plenty to say. You should maybe concentrate on what Ian Wright's tackles, maybe, rather than talk about Manchester United.
Early on, Ferguson and Manchester United dominated English football, and Wenger's Arsenal were the first team to genuinely challenge them. This led to a fierce and often bitter war of words between the two managers, which further fueled anti-Arsenal sentiments in the media.
He has no experience of English football. He's come from Japan and is into English football and is now telling everybody in England how to organise their football.
Ferguson and his players frequently accused Wenger of arrogance, and Arsenal were portrayed as a club that saw themselves as above the traditional English style.
He was incredibly arrogant.
The clashes between Arsenal and United, especially in the late 90s and early 2000s, became some of the most heated in football history, with incidents like Pizzagate.
I don't even know who threw the pizza at the time. I know it's been reported since it was Fabregas.
And Keane vs Vieira in the tunnel, adding to the narrative. By 2003-2004, Wenger had built one of the greatest teams in football history, the Invincibles. But instead of universal praise, Arsenal's unbeaten run led to even more criticism.
Big Arsenal fans have accused Graham Souness of being jealous of Arsene Wenger after he claimed the Frenchman got very lucky during his managerial career. My take on him was he got very, very lucky at a time when French football produced its greatest ever group of players.
Rival fans and pundits accused them of arrogance, especially when Wenger boldly claimed his side could go an entire season unbeaten before they actually did.
Arsene, I think you're one of the few people who believe that you could go the whole season unbeaten. How do you feel now that you've achieved it?
Of course, we are very proud.
Arsenal's confidence was often interpreted as smugness, leading to even more resentment. After going unbeaten in the 2004 season, Arsenal failed to defend their title in 2005, finishing 12 points behind Chelsea.
Why did that team that was invincible, why did it not kick on? Why did it not become a dynasty?
Critics began suggesting that Wenger's dominance was fading.
Look at the difference now following the Invincible year, when you win the league, and how quickly it changes.
We didn't improve. That was the thing. No money. The money went into the stadium, and we were losing players every single year.
Arsenal then lost the 2006 Champions League final to Barcelona despite taking the lead, leading to more criticism towards the French manager.
When you took the lead, how convinced were you could hang on against a team like Barcelona with only 10?
The Champions League loss was seen as a failure on the biggest stage, and pundits argued that Wenger's philosophy wasn't suited for European success. In the years that followed, Wenger and Arsenal faced relentless criticism.
If you're successful, those two central midfield players, Petit, Vieira, powerful in there. Why do you think I'm going to assess Fabregas and say I'm going to totally change? If you've got a template of how to win the league, why would you change that?
They became known as a club who prioritized top four over trophies. The phrase fourth place trophy became synonymous with Wenger's reign. Now, due to the lack of titles, pundits began to call Arsenal soft again, criticizing the lack of leadership and mental strength.
We've said it before, but we keep repeating ourselves: lack of leaders, lack of characters, hunger, desire.
I can't think of a word to describe that bunch. I could, but it might not be usable on television. But they're certainly not what I would call the type of characters that you would want to win you a league.
When Wenger began winning FA Cups, critics began to focus on Arsenal's inability to be genuine contenders in the league.
Poor attitude, no energy, no desire. You're looking for your senior players to lead by example. You know, I always think when Wilshere's your captain, to me, probably the most overrated player on the planet.
The 2016 season was seen as Arsenal's best chance to win the Premier League in years, as the traditional giants like Manchester United, Chelsea, and Liverpool were struggling. Yet it was Leicester who won the title with 81 points, while Arsenal finished second. The failure to capitalize on what many people deemed as the weakest Premier League season in recent history led to immense criticism from both fans and pundits. Arsenal's own supporters were now divided. Many loved Wenger for what he had done for the club, but the Wenger-out crew was gaining momentum.
Get him out, fam. Get him out.
Get who out?
Get Wenger out, blood. Get him out, fam.
We all know that Wenger never says anything. It's a mentality thing.
By 2018, the Arsenal fan base was deeply divided. Fans began protesting in and outside of stadiums. Wenger finally announced that he would step down at the end of the season. When Arteta was appointed, the media's outlook towards Arsenal didn't change. Similar to Wenger's early days, Arteta's inexperience was questioned.
If I wouldn't feel that I'm ready and prepared for this, I wouldn't be sitting in this chair.
Despite an early FA Cup win, Arsenal's form in the league was poor, leading to serious questions about whether Arteta was out of his depth.
You say it will come. You're in a really difficult moment. This is Arsenal's worst start for 45 years.
The Arsenal fan base was once again divided.
He is not good enough to be manager of Arsenal Football Club.
Arteta out, come on now.
With Arteta out trending, with many believing that Arteta was a failed Pep Guardiola apprentice.
Arteta hasn't managed a paper bag. He might turn out to be a great coach. Just wait and see. But it's Guardiola doing the business over there at City, not Arteta.
As Arteta began reshaping the squad, he often talked about trusting the process.
We have to respect the process.
Which again became a controversial phrase among Arsenal fans.
Trust your process. Trust all the players you've overhyped.
In the 2022 season, Arsenal started the season losing the first 3 games, including an embarrassing 5-0 defeat to Manchester City, which left Arsenal at the bottom of the table.
Not if, it's a case of when Arteta is taken out of the commission at Arsenal.
This sparked intense backlash, with many fans believing that Arteta should be sacked.
Arteta's got to go. Everything's got to change from top to bottom.
The Gunners actually ended up recovering and challenged for the top 4, but they collapsed in the final weeks, missing out on Champions League football after defeats to Tottenham and Newcastle.
Which I'm sure you would say is not acceptable for a club of Arsenal's stature.
The narrative then changed. Now, instead of saying he should be sacked, pundits like Gary Neville and Jamie Carragher question Arteta's ability to handle pressure.
Jamie Carragher, is that their Champions League dream over, do you think?
Yes, it is. I think that is a massive problem, not just this season. I think there's a huge problem for Mikel Arteta and this Arsenal team going forward.
I never fully trusted them to get into the top 4, to be honest with you, all the way through, but I thought that they would come out second half and respond for a poor first half and they would go and get that victory tonight, but they showed us nothing.
When Arteta began to make big decisions, it was always met with criticism. When he stripped Aubameyang of the captaincy and forced him out after disciplinary issues, many fans saw this as an unnecessary ego battle.
I just don't think that leads to anywhere positive for Arteta doing that, but he might have felt like he had to do that.
Pundits began to accuse Arteta of being too rigid and power hungry.
There's no way you can defend Arteta anymore.
Some even claimed that he was trying to be Pep Guardiola's copycat without the credentials to back it up.
So just to say that I think Arteta is a fake Guardiola.
As Arsenal started to perform better, the criticism from the media continued. Despite finishing with 84 points, Arsenal were mocked for bottling the title.
Since I started at Sky, I am sick of saying the same things about Arsenal. I got bored of it myself.
Arteta is one of the most animated managers on the touchline, which has led to accusations of him over-celebrating, being immature, or even losing control.
For me with the celebrations, I think, look, I've gone past the idea of sort of having a go at teams for celebrating. I just still think there's a little bit of immaturity in their celebrations, which means that to me it felt like relief that they weren't 8 points behind.
His complaints about referees and fixture schedulings have been mocked, with some calling him whiny or delusional.
Excuses. Arsenal lost at home.
Arsenal fans believe Arteta receives more criticism than other managers for his touchline antics, while managers like Klopp and Guardiola get praised for their passion. The expectations for Arsenal began to go up after they spent heavily on Declan Rice, Kai Havertz, and Timber. Arteta was mocked for signing Havertz, with rival fans saying that he wasted money on a Chelsea flop.
And then there are opinions that are to damage and other opinions that are to construct.
Arsenal fans themselves became divided again, with some believing that Arteta was being too stubborn with his tactics, while others fully trusted his methods.
He literally got us to a kick away from winning the league, so I still believe that we can do it.
Miguel, sorry to cut him, mate. He's won fuck all, yeah? In 5 years, mate. How much longer does this go?
Unlike Wenger's era, social media now dominates football discourse, making every decision Arteta makes more scrutinized. Arsenal's large online presence means their fan base is often mocked and ridiculed whenever the team underperforms. The same applies to new players. Declan Rice was universally loved as the captain of West Ham, but at Arsenal, there is increased criticism of him. Whatever Arsenal do, it's criticized. Whether it's a celebration, a big money transfer, or a managerial decision. No matter the manager, no matter the time period, Arsenal has always been at the center of doubt and hate. Whether it's from pundits, rival fans, or even their own supporters, everything they do is magnified. At the end of the day, the criticism, the hate, and even the debates, they aren't going anywhere. But one thing is certain, whether you love them or hate them, Arsenal will always be a club that gets people talking. When Arsenal was founded in 1886, they followed 3 principles. The same 3 principles that Arteta has used to transform the club.
For me, there are 3 main ones. One is respect, the other one is commitment, and the other is passion.
How is it possible that despite hundreds of years, the manager can still follow the same principles that were used when Arsenal were initially founded. To see the club's transformation, you have to check out this video right here.